Good afternoon. My name is Jim Taylor with the Oregon Department of Education. I work with the Career Technical Education team, but the vast majority of my work is around career exploration and guidance. And I am helping lead the YouScience pilot project along with my colleague Beth Molenkamp, who is with me from ODE. We are hosting McMahan.
You
Dang
got
it,
it.
Jerica McMahan from YouScience has just done amazing work in supporting our schools. Again, we are a wide variety of public, private, charter schools that are engaged in this project. We are thrilled to have you with us. This is a nuts and bolts session in that you're going to learn how to really use the platform with your students. This is not a convince you to join the pilot project, because you are here to join the pilot project. So thank you very much. Myself and Beth Molenkamp and Beth Wiggum from ODE are available to you. You will find our emails in the chat later and in documents that we get back to you after this gathering. We are recording today's event for those who can't attend. And if the pace is quick, it will give you a chance to go back and reflect and capture anything that you need to. We will have another event in September. The link to that will be provided as well throughout the day. And we encourage you, if you have colleagues that want to join us for another nuts and bolts session, or if you want to come back for a repeat and rehash, you are welcome to. In the chat, you will find a link to the office hour running notes. If you would please find a line and enter in your contact information, we would appreciate it. There is a question zone beneath the sign-in box. If you would begin populating that with questions that pop up in your head as we're working through, myself and Beth Molenkamp will monitor the chat and we will move those notes over. Jerica McMahan is going to do some stop and starts to double check for learning. And we're going to go at a quick pace. And we would ask you to wait for those kind of stop and start zones and continue to add comments into the chat. So we're just going to go like it's middle school on the first day. So welcome to everybody. Happy New Year. So thrilled you are here. Jerica, take it away.
All right. Awesome. Just to reiterate exactly what Jim was just saying, thank you guys for being here. I know that it is the first week of school for a lot of you, and so you're probably running around like crazy. So the fact that you took just a few minutes, I say a few minutes, is going to be, I don't know, 45 minutes to an hour, we'll see. But the fact that you took some time to be here with us this afternoon really means a lot. I'm excited for you to be here to get some training and to get everything up and running for this school year. So thank you, thank you. And I will go ahead and jump in. So I did make these slides available. You're welcome to access these and follow along with me. That way you can click along with me, or you can just watch along, and that's fine, and download them later. There are a ton of resources here, including people. So I am Jerica McMahan. Everyone pronounces my last name a little bit differently, and that's completely fine with me. It doesn't hurt my feelings. So reach out to me if you have any questions. I do have my contact information up here at the very top, but chances are that you've gotten an email from me or a call from me at some point. So you should have my info, but if you don't, feel free to copy that down and contact me if you have any questions. I like to also include a bit of your team. So it's not just me behind the scenes helping things work. I know I get a lot of credit for, helping schools be successful, but it really is a team effort. So I just wanted to quickly introduce you. I don't expect you to remember their names or faces, but I do want to introduce you to your team and let you know that there are a bunch of us here that are happy to help you. Whoever you reach out to, we will make sure that you get to the right place and we get you what you need. So just wanted to introduce you to that. I like to start our trainings with a real quick kind of rhetorical question. And if you're brave, you can absolutely put this in the chat if you wanted to answer it. But I just want you to think back really quickly to, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were younger? What were those things that you were thinking about becoming? And I ask this because a lot of your students are asking themselves this question right now, and they're not really sure how to answer that. So that's what YouScience is. That's what we do. We help connect students based on their aptitudes to their best fit futures, whether that's through post-secondary training, through university and college, or maybe it's just going straight into the workforce. That's what we do. That's our goal, is to help them connect to their best fit major or college or degree, or not degree, job, any of those things. A singing chef, Jim Taylor, that's not surprising at all. Teacher or an Olympic champion, love it. Yeah, absolutely.
Come on, folks, load
So
up that chat. We want to see the cool things you wanted to become.
Maybe it was a bus driver, maybe it was a paleontologist, maybe it was a public speaker. All of us kind of had an idea at some point of maybe someday I want to do this, but a lot of us didn't really know how to get there, or maybe we'd never heard of a job that we ended up actually pursuing at some point. So that's what we do. Love to see this. Executive secretaries, businesswomen. Yes, always wanted to be a teacher. Very cool, April. Camp director. Yeah, I love these. I love hearing from you guys just to see kind of where you're coming from and what you were thinking. Very cool. Very cool. So today's agenda, there are three big things that I wanted to focus on. I wanted to first touch on before you begin, all of the technology requirements and the ambassador checklist that I want you to take a look at before you even get started. Before you show this to a student, I want you to do these things first. Then we're going to look at how to upload your student rosters and actually get into the system a little bit and go through your admin dashboard. If you've got access to your student information system and you want to go ahead and jump in and upload those rosters today after the call, you absolutely can. I'm going to make sure you have all the information you need to do so. And then on the very end, we're going to go over some best practices, what other schools are doing that has been successful or what we find to be successful, and then some Q&A as well. So to get started, I have at the top of this one, save this slide because there's a ton of really good information on this one, and I want to make sure that you have access to it. So go ahead and download the slides. Make sure you save this one. Each one of these is a link. So if there's anything in my entire presentation that is underlined, please take a look at that resource. There's a ton of information. We're going to go ahead and start on the implementation plan. So for those of you who are here, you have probably already filled this out or you're about to fill this out. This is your implementation plan. It is due to ODE in just a couple of days. So please take a second to just fill this in as soon as you can. It's very straightforward. It's going to ask you for some of your background information, what you're doing with YouScience, and what your goals are with YouScience. So just take a second and submit that as soon as you can. It is in the slides. You should have access to it. If you've already submitted one for your school, you do not have to submit it again. So that's the first thing on our list. Once you've completed that's step 2 to funding. Step 3 to funding. So if you want to secure funding for the next 2 years, Jim and his pals at ODE are going to secure funding for any schools that complete all 3 steps. So most of you have already submitted the readiness form to me. Step 2 is that implementation plan right here. And then step 3 is to actually begin testing. So as soon as you begin testing, we need at least 20 students, preferably 20% of your student body, whether that's a grade level or a grade band or just a few classes, but at least 20 students have to be implemented in order to finalize and get that funding. So make sure that you get started as soon as you can. And that testing window needs to be done by, what was it, September 30th, Jim? Is that what we said? So absolutely. So
Correct.
make sure
Thank
that
you.
you get started testing before September 30th and get that step 3 done. So once that's done, we're going to talk about your ambassador checklist. So in the ambassador checklist, this is kind of a step-by-step guide. If you open up this, it's going to take you to our knowledge base, and I'm probably going to show you this big purple barred website 100 times today. But our ambassador checklist is really great because it's going to give you literally a step-by-step guide for how to have a successful implementation. Here are the things that you have to do in order to have successful implementation. So make sure that you go through each of these steps. You can check the box as you go along, but this should be fairly straightforward and easy to follow. If you have any questions about the ambassador checklist, let me know. I'm happy to help you with it. One of the things on my slide that's going to be the next piece is this technical requirements checklist. This is a huge one. So a lot of you guys, you're familiar with this. Your IT department has firewalls up. They have different settings on your Wi-Fi to not allow students to access a specific website. So one thing that you can do to make sure that everything runs smoothly on your actual assessment day is to make sure that your tech department has access to this list. So if we click on this list, may enable editing. Oh, come on, mouse. Okay, I don't want that. Enable editing. There we go. If I click on this link or in the slides, it's the same link. This is a document. You don't have to try and write up anything. You can literally just download this and send it over to your IT department, and they know what to do with it. They'll be able to whitelist any of the websites that we use or any of the domains we use and make sure that students can access the website without hitting any firewalls. So definitely download a copy of this and send it over to your IT people before your assessment date. So that's what that looks like. So we've gone over the ambassador checklist as well as the tech checklist. And finally, how to prep your student accounts bulk upload. So this is in this prepare phase. Before we get started with students, I want to take care of these things first. Then we'll get to the share phase. So prepping your student accounts and doing your bulk upload. I have a tutorial video on this link. So if you want a step-by-step walkthrough of that, you have access to it here. You can watch the video, it's about 2 minutes long, or you can go step by step with these written instructions. So either one is completely fine, but I do want you to know that you have that resource available in the slides ready to go whenever you need it. I'll go ahead and do a live walkthrough with you here in just a little bit, but I want you to know that that resource is available. So next up is sharing out. One of the best things you can do to have a successful implementation with YouScience is to talk about it. Have your staff members take the YouScience brain games for themselves. Share with your caregivers. There's a parents one-pager here that I think is fantastic. And then also share on social media or on in your school building. If you have a social media page, you can click here to go to school tools and choose if you're in middle or high school. And then from there, it'll give you text messages that you can send out if you do mass text messages, Facebook posts, emails, tweets, flyers, call-out messages. All that information is going to be here. So feel free to take advantage of that. There's also the parent one-pager here. So if you click on this link, you can see a quick 1 or 2 pages on how to explain YouScience to your community. And then finally, the request page. This is available to any educator in the nation. So whether they're in your area or maybe you have a cousin who lives in Wyoming and they need to know about YouScience, you can send them this link. And oh, look, that auto-filled with somebody I was talking to earlier today. That's crazy, Carrie Green. So this will give them free access to take YouScience on their own. So if they want to try out YouScience and they're connected to a school in any capacity, maybe they're a teacher, counselor, principal, superintendent, what have you, you can send them to this request page and we'll send them a free profile to try it out. So feel free to take advantage of that. So lots of sharing resources. If you need more, I have more, but these are some of my favorites that I wanted to make sure I got into your hands. And then of course, resources. So if you teach high school, you'll want to download our high school toolkit. If you teach middle school, there's one for you as well. We have kickoff videos that help you build excitement in your school building. So telling your students about the brain games. And then of course, we also have an implementation roadmap that we put together for you. This is a PDF version. You can download it as a slide. I've got it as a slide later on that we'll look at, but in case you need a copy of that, it's available as well. So like I said, lots and lots of stuff. Make sure you save this slide, come back to it whenever you need to. So I'm going to exit out of some of these. Otherwise, my computer will crash on me and go crazy. So next up, we're going to talk about aptitudes, the science behind YouScience. So if you get that question, you'll know how to answer it. Discovery for high school is what we call Summit. These are the Summit brain games or the high school brain games. In middle school, we call it Snapshot. And in early middle school or 6th grade, we call it Snippet. In high school, it is for 9th graders and above, anyone over the age of 14, which is when your aptitudes solidify. I like to say if you took our brain games at age 15 and again at 35 and again at 45 and again at 95, your aptitudes would remain just about the same. So there's no need for you to retake the assessment after high school. Your aptitudes do stay the same within less than 2% change over time, so they will remain. There are 9 brain games, an interest inventory, an interpersonal style profile, and 5 additional brain games that you can take to get you to that full adulthood level if you want to do that. It matches students to 500 different careers, colleges in their area, opportunities and employment in their area, as well as a resume builder or describing you section. So a lot of resources at the high school level, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a minute. At the middle school level, it's for 7th and 8th graders. It has 5 brain games, so 5 of the same 9 that are in the high school level, and the interest inventory, but it does not include the personality profile or the additional brain games, and it matches them to clusters rather than specific careers. In 6th grade, this is really something that we don't even sell, really. It's for free. Anyone can take this in 6th grade. It's interest only, so it's just those that ONET interest profiler. Brain games at the high school level can take 60 minutes. Or at the middle school level, they take 60 minutes. At the high school level, it's 75 to 90 minutes. So that's something to keep in mind as you're planning out your implementation of when am I going to implement this? Where am I going to implement this? How much time do I need? Who's going to lead it? Those kinds of questions. It's good to keep in mind how long each of the assessments take. You do not have to complete these all in one sitting. Please take a break. Let your students take a break. Even if that's just to go to the bathroom or go to lunch, we want them to take a little bit of a break in between some of the brain games. Students can get started in 2 ways. They can either use an activation code or an email invitation. Either way, students are assigned a unique activation code. The only difference is how we deliver it to them. So some teachers find it easier to provide the activation code on a slip of paper or with a QR code. Others find it easier to just send out a mass email that says, "Hi, John, here is your activation code." So either way is fine, and I'll show you how to access both of those. So I'm going to pause really quick. Questions. I'm going to check the chat. Feel free to throw something in there or unmute if you need to, but I'm just going to take a quick look.
So I'm going to check in with folks. We are going to town in the question and answer session. So if you're feeling good about that, we'll continue to do so. Jerica, at the moment, we're catching the questions and the answers, and maybe
Love
we
it.
could be more of a philosophical conversation at the tail end.
Okay.
Checking in with our folks on the screen and in the room with us today, out loud in the chat. Any questions right now for Jerica?
So I have a quick question. I have students who started it last year in 7th grade. But they never got to finish because of absences and whatnot. Should they just start again afresh in 8th grade, or should they finish where they left off from last year in 7th?
That's a great question. So the system is going to remember where they were when they left off. So when they log in, it's going to just pick up exactly where they were. They're not going to have to retake anything. At the middle school level, it's the same assessment in 7th and 8th grade. So they do not need to restart at any point. Great question.
Thank you.
Yep.
All
And
right,
Ben, if you decide philosophically to have them restart, it'd be great to hear us share out and see how the students felt about that. So whichever method you decide to go with, if you could get us some feedback, we'd love to be able to share that across the state.
I can do that.
All right, thanks. And as folks may be new to the meeting, we're going to put in the chat access to the slide deck and access to the note-taking platform that we are all working on. So please jump right in. Add your name, please, for the attendance, and also questions can be populated in the question section below the attendance box. If no other questions right now, Jerica will go right back to you.
All right, awesome. So we do have another resource.
Oh, we got a voice.
I'm sorry. We did have a question. Somebody asked if this can be completed asynchronously.
Absolutely, yes.
Yes.
One of the cool things about YouScience is that it's all online. So whether you have a group of students right in front of you and you're all taking the same brain game at the same time, or if you want to assign it as homework and have students work on it independently, that's completely fine. Yeah, great question.
And we add that if they do it independently, that you encourage them to have the same sort of parameters you might have in a group environment where they maintain quiet, have focus, and are really concentrated on that experience of the brain games. I'm going to add in there, we refer to them as brain games. These are not a test, a pass-fail experience. And our results, early results from early adopters found that talking to kids about this as a test did not have the same positive results as talking to this about as a brain game experience. So please take that into consideration as you're doing your planning and implementation. Can I get a thumbs up or thumbs down if our pace is good? A thumbs up if we're moving too fast, a thumbs down either on your indicator or on the screen, just so we have a sense. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
All
We
right.
will continue at this clip. Back
That
to
we
you,
also
Jerica.
have another question I think that is important too, is that someone is working both the middle and high school students, and they wanted to know if they need to complete an implementation plan for both of those age groups.
If they're housed at different campuses, I would say, I don't know, Jim, do you want one for each campus?
If it is a different campus, we do need to know, but if it's the same school building, same campus, you are fine by indicating 7th through 12th on your implementation plan. Thank you.
Awesome, great question. All right, so we do have resources within our knowledge base that are easy to access, also these slides, but this is the high school version of the brain game, so you can see all of what is being assessed of your students, as well as at the middle school level. So you can see that some of them overlap, like visual comparison speed and numerical reasoning. You can also see the exercise length and number of questions. So each of the brain games is a timed exercise, but there is not like a threshold that they have to beat or like a grade that they have to make. It's all just assessing how they function, how their brain works, how they problem solve. So if it takes, you know, the visual comparison speed, it's 5 minutes for everyone. It's not like you can finish early or go fast because you're so great at visual comparison speed. It's going to be 5 minutes of continuous exercise until that timer is up. So it's something to keep in mind. And there's the high school and the middle school for you to just plan out your day. They are completed in order. So that's a question that comes up a lot is, you know, can I take the spatial visualization because I only have 7 minutes and I don't have the 15 minutes for the numerical reasoning? Unfortunately, it is in order. So that should help you plan out if you wanted to do like a 2-day program or a 3-day program of when and how you test. This is a really helpful resource to plan those out. Some sample exercises. A lot of you have probably seen some of these samples before, but I like to show them just in case there's anyone who's really new to this. Our spatial visualization brain game, here's just a couple of examples of what your students would encounter and what we encourage you to encounter as you take your own brain games. This brain game is a paper folding exercise. So within your brain, we're asking you to fold this piece of paper, not have a piece of paper next to you that you're folding and trying to punch holes in, but really just use your brain and that visualization to fold the piece of paper as instructed and then punch a hole in it. And as you unfold the paper, we ask where the holes should be. And so the correct answer for this one is B, in case you're playing along. That answer is B, but they're going to be a lot more in depth than this. Sometimes they fold pieces that are a triangle to start, or sometimes they punch multiple holes in different corners. So it does get a little bit more difficult as you continue through the brain games. Students can take as long or as short of a time as they need to answer each one of these questions before moving on to the next version of this game. Another brain game that you'll see is the inductive reasoning brain game. And this is one where we give them images and ask them to draw a relationship between exactly 3 items or exactly 4 items. For this one, it's exactly 3. And if I take a look at some of these images, I might come up with a couple different answers. So I might be able to say that A is my instruction book, E is my tool, and F is my outcome. That's a relationship between 3 things. Or I can say that B, C, and E all have an electrical cord and are powered by electricity. So they are in a relationship. I cannot, however, say that sandwich and mixer and cake and toaster are all the same because that's 4, not 3. So there's different ways that you might solve this answer or this question. So our assessment is testing how quickly they come up with an answer as well as what kinds of answers they come up with. So I wanted to show you what the summit results look like compared to the snapshot results. So summit is again that high school brain game assessment. It's going to show them their aptitude wheel, their personal approach, 500 different careers, and more. They get a ton of information at the high school level. In the middle school level, we want to make it a little bit more concise. So we really only show them their aptitude wheel and their top 2 talents, and then we match them to a career cluster. So at the high school level, we might tell them that they could be a really good fit for a brain surgeon, a nurse technician, as well as a doctor and general practitioner. But in the middle school level, we're really going to match with them and say, you should look into health sciences. You have a lot of the aptitudes that are relevant in health science. So that's a big difference between the two. Students in middle school can still see all 500 plus careers in the database, but they're going to be matched to a cluster rather than to a specific career. So I wanted to go ahead and have you sign in. If you have your account, you can feel free to go ahead and do that. If you've never activated your account, you'll probably be looking for an email that looks like this on your screen. You'll need to activate the account and set up an email password combo in order to get access. But once you're in, this is what your administrative portal is going to look like. And I'm going to open this up live to show you. Oh, I'm Lisa right now. Just kidding. Let me be Jerica for this demonstration. So this is what your administrative portal will look like. You're welcome to log in with me and play around with it, or you can just watch the screen and I'll show you some of the big things to take away. So this is what your screen will look like. As you'll see across the top, we're here to help you tackle that to-do list. This is for educators. So you're going to have access to your admin dashboard, your help center, and your insights. Students, however, will only have access to this certifications button and below. So they have access to just this section, you have access to it all. So we encourage every educator to take their own brain games and understand the platform from that perspective, but you don't have to take the brain games in order to manage those profiles. For the results, you can click on your own welcome back section, or you can take the brain games yourself to see that full aptitude assessment. There's the explore pages that allow you to get some more information about each aptitude. And then there's also the careers pages that you can go through. And I'm just going to speed through this because that's not what this training is for. But there are the careers pages that match you to a specific type of career. And there's also the describing you section and the colleges section. For today, though, we're going to focus on the administrative portal. So you can either navigate by going to that home page, or you can use the little 3 stacked, I call it a pancake menu because it looks like stacked pancakes. But you can click up there in order to navigate around the website. Within the admin portal, you have several buttons to learn. So I'm going to show you a quick walkthrough of each one. So first things first, if you manage more than one school, so if you happen to work at a middle school and a high school and you have 2 different campuses there, you will have this organization drop-down option, and that will allow you to toggle between different campuses. If you only work at one school, it should just say YouScience High School at the top, or whatever your high school or middle school name is. To get students started, there are 2 options, and I told you about the email invitations or the activation codes. And either way, whether you're using activation codes or emails, you're going to have to start with this bulk invite button. So down here, this is where I'm going to upload my student rosters. And there's a video walkthrough of this in my slides for you to download if you want that. But here's what it looks like. You're going to download our template, fill in the blanks, and then upload our template. So it's very, very simple. If you are a brand new school, you've never used YouScience before, and you work with Clever or a Google Classroom, you can skip this step and have your students log in through that single sign-on. But if you have used this last year, or you're not brand new to YouScience, or if you're not using Clever or Google Classroom, then you'll have to follow this bulk upload feature. So if you have questions about the SSO, let me know, send me an email. I'm happy to show you what that looks like. But this is for those who have used YouScience in the past or do not have that integration with Clever or Google Classroom. So if I download this spreadsheet, I am going to get a template. The template here gives me my basic headers. We do ask that you don't edit the headers. You can stretch them if you want, but you don't have to edit them at any point. You'll notice that column A is the only required field. Everything else is completely optional. So if you're going to use email invitations, we recommend for all groups to do a class of naming convention. So maybe that's class of 2022. And if I've got 10 students in this group, I'm going to drag it down to row 11 since row 1 is my header. And then I'm going to fill in the emails of the students in that class of 2022 group. And you can copy and paste these from your SIS or from your class roster if you wanted to use the email feature. If you plan on using activation codes and your students don't have an email, you can leave this blank and just upload it as is. Any questions on this part really quick? Is there a way to upload students from Google Classroom rosters? Should be I believe if they log in through Google Classroom, you don't have to do or actually everyone does have to do the rostering. I just realized that. Let me reverse. Everyone has to go through this to upload your rosters, but your students can log in using Google Classroom or Clever as their sign-in. But you do have to go through this process of uploading them to the system either way, whether you use Google or not. Great question. That's a brand new feature, so I apologize for getting that mixed up, but that was released last week, so it's still very fresh and new. All right, so if you are using the email option, you'll need to include the emails. If you're going to use the Google Classroom option, I would go ahead and put in the student's Google Classroom roster here, and you should be able to export that from Google Classroom and just copy paste it into this column. And then you'd save it to your desktop. So I'm just going to go ahead and save this PC. Let me just save it. Jerica, just save it. Sorry. Okay, so if I save this and then come back to upload my completed spreadsheet, I can choose the file from my recent files. Maybe, yeah, right here, and open it. So now I have uploaded it. I'll click upload and it says that this group exists. My class of 2022 already exists, and I have added 10 invitations to that group. Now, if I included their email address, it would have assigned that email address to each invitation. Because I left it blank, I'm going to have 10 blank invitations added to the class of 2022. So if you did not have an existing group, let's say class of 2022 was brand new and you had no groups, then it would say, do you want to create this group and invitations? And you would click yes before clicking dismiss. So now if I go back and I manage my groups, I should be able to find my class of 2022. And this is my demo group. So there's quite a few of them. Let me find it. Where are you? Sorry. Was I in middle school when I did that? I'm so sorry. I don't know where it went. Well, it should be in here. I must have been in a different school. Let me find one. I don't know where it would be. I have way too many groups on my, it doesn't matter. So it would appear on the group that you created it in. I'm not going to toggle through each of my organizations and try and find that one, but I must have clicked on one when I was up here showing you that. So it should appear in your current groups section right here. Let's say it was that one. I can click here and it would show me the 10 instead of 2. It would show me those 10 invitations that I created right here in this column. So this is another thing that I like to point out. This is another brand new feature. So I sent an email to just about every one of my clients today to explain this results hold feature. So it's brand new. A lot of people will see this results hold and think inactive, something is wrong. Why is it inactive? I have access, it shouldn't be inactive. And what this really is it's telling you, is this feature active or inactive? If I go to settings, inactive is going to be my standard or my recommended setting. So down here, it says do not hold results or hold results. This is a new feature that you can add to it. The majority of you are not going to hold results, which is why it's the recommended option. This allows users to go ahead and view the results as soon as they are ready. They don't have to wait on anything or any checkbox to be submitted. As soon as they complete the brain games, they get their results. So when it says it's inactive, that's actually recommended. For the results hold, if you were to use this hold results feature, that doesn't allow students to see their results until you release them to them. So my example for this would be if you have like a YouScience testing day and a YouScience results day, and you don't want students to log in between those days, you can turn on a results hold, and any students you invite with that results hold on will not have access to their results until you release them. So that's the option there. Like I said, the majority of you are going to have that inactive label on there, but if there's a reason that you wanted to hold those results back for a moment, you could do that. So here's what that would look like if you did have the results hold on. It would turn green and say active. And any students in this group would appear on the on hold button here. And that's the results hold feature.
I'm going to interrupt really quick. Jerica,
Yeah.
one question came up.
Sure.
Which methodology is easiest for getting students into their brain games? Access code or email invite?
That's completely up to the school. I would say for high school, a lot of your high schoolers are going to be more comfortable with an email. So that's easier for them. Middle schoolers a lot of times aren't super comfortable with email yet. They're not used to logging into it. Maybe they forgot their password, and there's a little bit more of a headache with that. So I would really just leave that up to the school. You can kind of identify what would work best for your students. If they get into their email all the time, I would definitely go the email route. But for middle schoolers, if they're uncomfortable with email or they're not used to logging into it, activation codes might be easier to just have a spreadsheet on hand and hand out those blank codes. Does that make sense?
You bet. Could we check in with folks on the screen and with us today?
Yeah.
Has anybody had experience with that you'd like to make a recommendation to folks moving forward, whether to use activation codes or email? We got Kendra saying email, and Kendra does work with middle school kiddos.
Awesome.
Okay. If anybody else chat or out loud.
Yeah.
And we'll keep an eye on the chat.
Yeah. Like I said, my preference is email because it's just going to give them that activation code sent in an email that they get to click a button. So it's very easy. The downside is when you have those kids who just aren't very familiar with how to log into an email system, which was more common before COVID hit. Now that schools have been doing online learning for a little while, their students are much more comfortable with email. So absolutely.
All right, and we're getting both. So again, it looks like comfort level for your students at your place and space. Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. But either way is completely fine, whatever you guys decide.
Great.
All right. So that is the results hold feature and how to upload a roster. Another question that comes up all the time is, what if I had a kid left off the roster and maybe they transferred to your school 2 weeks after everybody else and they just weren't on that initial upload? Is there a way for me to just assign one student without having to upload the entire roster again? And the answer is yes. If you click on this Get Student Started button right up here at the very front, it will give you the opportunity to invite a single student at a time. And you'll do that under Manage Invitations. And keep in mind, this is recorded and you can access all of this in our knowledge base as well, but I'm just going to show you where to get this. The Manage Invitations feature allows you to choose the group you want to invite them to. And then if I click the group that I want to invite, I can type in their first and last name. I can type in their email, make sure the box is checked and send it. Or if I don't want to send them an invitation email, I can either put in their email or I can technically leave all of this blank. So I'll show you what that looks like. If I just need a code, I can leave all of it blank and uncheck this box and click invite, and it generates that code for me right here. So I can automatically give this to a student and say, go put this in on your computer and you should be able to get started. You can completely bypass any other information. Now you might be wondering, if I don't put their information here, then how am I going to know who's actually taking that account? And that's done for you. So when they activate that activation code, it's going to ask them for their first name, last name, email, all of that information. So they're going to input that information rather than you doing it. Great questions that come up a lot.
Question for you from Sarah. Do we need to upload students each year? Sarah's added students to the certification, but just does not see them in the YouScience
Great
portal,
question,
if I'm reading that
Sarah.
correctly.
Yes, great question. So there is the certification platform that you have access to, at least at your school. The majority of people in this call probably don't have access to certifications, but if you do, there are 2 uploads. So you'll have to upload them to our certifications platform and to the YouScience platform. So that's a really great question. If you need help uploading them, let me know and I'm happy to help you with that.
And then while we're on the subject of getting people access, one of the most recommended actions to take for success with your school and your students is as many adults in the building to take it with you, having that knowledge of the experience before students engage in it. This is not really like a teaching guitar class, know one chord more than the kiddos type of thing. So if you get a chance to get faculty, staff buy-in and your team building, having them take the exam. So the question is, how do they invite, if they as an administrator can invite other staff members to take and have access, how do they do that, Jerica?
Absolutely. Great question. I'm glad you asked. So there are 3 tiers of access. So the first one is at the very bottom, just Brain Games access. I don't want them to manage any accounts. They don't need any school access. I just want them to try it out so that they know what the Brain Games look like. And if that's the case, then I do want them to go to youscience.com/request. So that's this form right here that I showed you a minute ago. This is if it's just going to fill in with Carrie's information every time. Sorry, Carrie. So this is the page that I want them to go through if they just need Brain Games access, nothing else. If you want them to have access to their own Brain Games and a teacher account where they can manage student profiles and invite students and upload their own rosters, that looks a little bit different. So I'll show you what that looks like. Within the Manage Groups button, you'll notice that there's this Group Settings button in blue. So if I click on Group Settings, this will allow me to invite any managers. Managers are the second tier of Brain Games access. This gives them access to just this group that I'm assigning them to. So as the administrator for the school account, I can add in maybe all of the English teachers who are going to help me implement YouScience, or maybe it's all of the social studies teachers or the career guidance teachers. So you can just type in their email address here and click Add, and make sure that you choose Save Updates at the bottom. I cannot tell you how often people will add and not click Save and then wonder why the emails never went out. So make sure that you click Save Updates down here at the bottom in order to send out that invitation to be a group manager. The next tier of access is administrator. So this is someone who's going to have access to all groups, not just the one that you assign them to, but every group in your school. And if you want them to have that access, you're actually going to go over here on the far hand side where it says Manage Organization. Same process. I'm just going to type in their email, click Add, and then down at the bottom, make sure I choose Save Changes in order to add them as an administrator. Administrators are able to add other admin, assign group managers, assign student accounts, bulk upload, create groups, just about everything that you can do within the platform. Whereas a group manager only has access to the one group that they've been assigned to. They can invite students to that group, they can view reports for that group, they can manage student progress for that group, but they can't see any of the other groups at their school. So theirs would only have the one section. I hope that makes sense.
I'm going to just do a real quick recap. So just have a teacher, have an assistant, have somebody in the building that just want to take it to explore and understand it better, have them go to the youscience.com request. You have your English team, your social studies team, you want them to manage their classes. You would go to group settings and group managers and send them an invitation. You have a partner in the building and they're going to be diving deep into the data. Might be an administrator, might be an instructional coach, could be some department heads working collaboratively. You would want them to be administrators so they can access the full gamut of data and tools. To do that, you go to Manage Organization, send an invite, but that loads them in as an administrator. How'd I do?
That's perfect. That's exactly right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect. So did want to just touch.
Someone had another question. How do you know if you're an admin or not?
Yeah, great question. So if you're an admin, you'll have access to the Create New Group button, as well as the Manage Organization button. If you are just a manager, you'll know because the Create New Group button won't be there, and you'll only have 4 buttons here instead of the 5th one. Great question. If you feel like there's an error and you're supposed to be an admin and you only have manager access, you can reach out to me or our support team. We can figure out who the administrator is for your school and just double check and make sure that there were no lines crossed or anything. As long as your school is okay with you being an administrator, we can add you as an admin. So if you find that you don't have that Create New Group button, we'll let you know how to get it. But that's a great question. Okay. Next things that we can talk about are the engagement report. So this engagement report here allows you to view the whole school and see who's logging in and when. So it gives a bit of information here. If I download all groups for the YouScience High School, I'm going to click here. And it's going to show me what the name of the group is. as well as their first and last name, the email that they have on file, what their graduation year is, and what their status is. So here I can see that this student is bio complete. That means that they've logged in and created their account, but they haven't started any of the brain games yet. Joined means that I've activated my account, but I haven't filled in any of my account information yet. So they haven't started on anything. Assessment started obviously means that they've at least begun, and then results ready means that they are done with their brain games. So this column G will tell you how many careers that student is saving. So this student has saved 7 different careers, which is a lot more activity than this student who's only saved 1. But this student down here has saved 66. So he's very active in the platform. I can also see how much time is remaining in the assessment. So this student has 67 minutes left, whereas this one only has 60. So that can help you with identifying students that need to log back in to finish up their brain games. You can also see their last login date. So if I extend that a little bit, I can see when they were last logging in. So I can filter this. If you wanted to, you can add some data filters here, and you can actually search for a specific year. So who's logged in this year, and it will show you that. If I'm looking for students that have 60 minutes left, I can filter that and it'll give me a specific list. So really cool way to kind of manage those student accounts. It does give you the email, so you're able to send out a mass email really quick that says, "Hi, Lalani, I noticed that you still have an hour left in your assessments. Would really love for you to log back in and get started." So that's the engagement report. It is just engagement. It doesn't tell me anything else about the student as far as what their aptitudes are or what their best fit majors are. This just shows me who's logging in and when. But if I wanted to see more information about the students in my school, I can go to my Insights button. And again, I can either access this here on my homepage or in the navigation bar over here. Either way is fine. But if I click on Insights, it's going to give me a lot more information about the students who have completed brain games at my school. So for example, I'm just going to click on my YouScience High School, and you'll notice that at the high school level, I have 4 different reports to choose from. If I go back and choose just the middle school, I've only got the 1 report. So because I have access to both, I can keep both open. One big question that comes up with Insights reports pretty frequently is, what is the difference between advise or recruit? So there's 2 different reports that you can run. Advise is really great for if you're looking at the full school and you just want to get an idea of who has a best fit for what. Given all options, what is the status of my school? Where are the talent trends that I should be looking at? Recruit is really great for if you have a specific CTE course that you're trying to fill seats in. This is something that Henley used really, really well. They would go through with their 8th graders and say, we have a program for automotive. Who are the students that we need to put into that class? And so the recruit option finds you those best fit students given a choice of a CTE pathway. All right, so let me exit out of that. At the high school level, you have access to a few more reports. This one identifies the student's best fit CTE pathway, as well as non-traditional students. This one will identify students in their top career, so it gives them their top 10 career choices according to YouScience. This is a fantastic one to use with your career fairs if you're trying to identify what types of jobs or employers or employees you like to invite. The majors match report allows you to see the students' top 3 majors according to YouScience. So what would their best fit major be? And then the last one is the clusters match, which just allows you to match them to a specific area. So again, health science versus doctor, nurse, etc. So within these reports, I'm going to go ahead and just generate a top careers report and show you what that looks like. I get a good bit of demographic information, so I can see that 28 students at YouScience High School have completed the brain games. I can see their gender choices, their ethnicity choices, as well as their age choices. So you get a bit of demographic information there. You also get de-identified student information. So this shows you just raw numbers. of how many students, 21 in this case, are a good fit for architecture and engineering, or how many are a good fit for life and physical and social sciences. As we scroll further down, I'm able to see specific students. So this is Jess Jokin. I say Joaquin, but it was supposed to be Jokin. Jess Jokin and what her top 10 aptitude careers are, top 10 interest careers, and top 10 overall fit careers. And you can, again, export this as a CSV, add some filters, and really narrow down your list of students. So you can use this filter here on the right or on the left-hand side to either search for a specific student like Jess. So now my list is much shorter, only students that have Jess in their name. Or I can search for something specific like lawyer, and I can see only students that have lawyer listed in one of their top choices. Any questions on insights before we move on?
We have some questions that came up with. One says, when I logged on, there's no organization listed. If I'm going to be in charge of 2 campuses, how do I get access to the organization tab where I can toggle between the 2 schools?
Right. If you need that access, just send me a request and I will confirm that you're at that school and add that access for you. So you can send me an email.
And then we have, this is our first time implementing. Question for experienced YouScience teachers. How many class periods did you use to have students complete brain games? How many days should a new user plan for, especially for high school?
That's a great question. For those experienced YouScience teachers, if you want to jump in the chat, you're welcome to give your own perspective and own experience on that. Within the YouScience toolkit, you can see, let me pull that up for you really quick. So on that save this slide, if you go to the high school toolkit, this is a really cool resource for you. It's going to give you teacher facing slides. So how many days should I have? What slides should I use during this? If I come down here, you can see what a 3-day implementation looks like. These are if you have 40 minutes a day. Down here, if you wanted to do it as a bell ringer or as an advisory period, this is if you've only got 10 to 20 minutes a day. So we do break that down for you to make it as easy as possible to help you plan out that implementation. So definitely take a look at those. But again, if you have done this before and want to give some of your own perspective in the chat, please feel free to answer that question.
Then we have another that is, someone asked, says, I am an admin, but I do not see create new groups button.
You should. If you don't see the create new groups button, make sure that you click on the admin dashboard and then look for it. If it's not there, send me an email. I'll be able to confirm that and add it for you if you don't have it for whatever reason.
And then we have 250 students who'll be doing this with 4 teachers and 11 classes. Should they all be input as class of 2026, or should we somehow differentiate between our classes?
I love that question. I am so glad that you asked. Our best practice is to have them all in their graduating class. So class of 2026 would be preferred, simply because as they move forward a year where they might be in Miss McMahan's group this year, they're all going to get shuffled up likely next year, and moving them around to their next year's shuffle of classes or that next year's roster is a really manual process. You'd be having to move 1 or 2 students to this group and then 1 or 2 students to that group. And it gets really messy really quick, especially if you have a lot of students. Ultimately, you're going to do what you think is best. And if that's easiest for you to manage the student groups with 11 different groups, you can do that. But I will say that year over year, following that graduating class naming convention is a lot easier, and you can give all of the teachers access to that same graduation group. That way they can all access at the same time, and it's easier as you move on to the next school year. But that's a great question. Awesome. Any other questions?
Yeah, we would just invite people to jump into the note-taking section on the running notes and add your comments with regard to those reports, Jerica. Also, when they're clustered in their graduation class, that does help with report generation for the conversations around course selection, course planning, and even then reaching out to business and industry and your communities and talking about kind of the pipeline of talent that exists in your school, and in a middle school talking to a high school, indeed the same conversation. Here come your 7th and 8th graders, and these are the results that we can share with you about their aptitudes.
Absolutely. I definitely agree.
Just had a new question. Is there a way to move students from one building to another, middle school to high school, or do I need to invite them as 9th graders?
That's a great question. So as students move, let's say that your students took YouScience at their middle school as 7th or 8th graders, and now they're in your high school. How do I get their account from the middle school to the high school? That's a great question. You are going to follow that bulk upload option just like you would for any other group. When you bulk upload them, they are going to get a little window that pops up that says your network is growing, and it'll say, YouScience High School wants you to join their high school. Do you accept? And so the student will just click accept, and that moves their account from middle school to high school for you. So you don't have to worry about trying to send us a list or anything like that. It'll just move them automatically. So definitely follow the bulk upload option, and it'll take care of the rest for you.
Okay, and certainly can reach out to you if that's a issue that they're having any problem. Okay,
Absolutely.
Super. All right.
Great question.
Jim added a really good question in the notes. We'd love to hear back from you. As attendees, it's a question for you. What subjects or topics for future office hours would be best help for you in implementing, using, and fusing YouScience into your system of career connected learning? So if you can add your suggestions there, that would be great, so that we can make sure that we have useful meetings.
Quick pause. Are we missing anything from the chat? Trying to double check. Did we catch the if I am an admin, but I do not see create group new groups button? Did I miss that answer?
Yeah,
Apologies.
send me an email. That's definitely something that I can fix on the individual level, but I'll have to go in on my YouScience side. So send me an email if you don't see that button, and I'll get you the access you need.
Thank you.
I did put my email in the chat again in case you want to send that right now while it's fresh on your mind.
The recording will be out by the end of the week, Quinn. And yes, so we'll download tonight, and I'll get it processed tomorrow and upload it onto YouTube and get it out to everyone. Slides are available, and link to the slides is at the top of the note-taking document, and we will put into the chat again.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And somebody was speaking. We'll catch what you need to say. Who did we miss?
I was just going to ask, because I had started to make a group for students before you mentioned grouping them by their graduation year. So if I was going to, I don't see, is it possible to edit that initial group name or delete it? Or what would I just go ahead and what would be best to do with that?
Absolutely. Have you already added students to the group?
No.
Okay. If you've not added students to the group, it makes it even easier. What you'll do is go to manage groups. If you click on group settings for any of them, you should be able to change the name right here. So you can change it to.
Okay. Easy enough. All right.
Yep.
It's not like
Super
locked in
easy.
once you make it.
Exactly. So you can just modify that, and then of course choose save updates down here at the bottom. Make sure you do that.
Okay.
But yeah, you can change the name at any point. That's completely fine. You can also add additional group managers at any time. So even if you're creating that group and you add your managers, and then let's say you have a new teacher come in, you can add them halfway through the school year, and that's completely fine. I also want to point out that there's no limit to how many teachers you can have using the program. So if you feel like, oh, well, there's already 3 of us doing this, I can't add another one. That's not true. You can add as many teachers as you want to have access.
Okay.
And that's true in both group manager and administrator, correct, Jerica?
Correct.
All right,
yes.
Thank you.
So unlimited number of students, unlimited number of teachers and staff. So feel free to go crazy with it.
The slide that you showed that like had the projected implementation, if you were doing it like for a day, is that one a different slide than the one that you were working with before? Because I didn't see that.
Yes. So I do have them linked. If you go to slide number 5 on my slides, it says save this slide. Everything is going to be accessed there. You can go to the high school toolkit down there at the bottom, but I'll also put that here in the chat for you to access directly.
No, I already saved this one and I saved the document from the other one, which had links. I was just, I feel like that one's going to be probably really helpful for how we decide to implement.
Excellent.
So thank you.
And this may have been caught earlier, but if I could recommend, so if you're a middle school working with high school working with middle school, or you're an administrator working with multiple schools, be sure to get in as an administrator access. So that middle school, high school, if your partners at both levels have access to each other's data, you don't have to show a screen, you don't have to generate and send reports. They can actually get right in and look at those reports with you. So just consider that as part of your planning and prep process.
Yeah. Love that. Good addition. So that's everything within the YouScience platform, that live view that we were looking at. We've looked at just about every button in here. There is the Help Center that you can access anytime, but I do want to touch on just a few other things before y'all go for the day. So on the nuts and bolts training slides, you can access this handwriting activity that we have for you. I find it really helpful to help explain to students what aptitudes are. So if you click on that, it should open up to a doc for you. It's got a very quick anticipatory set for you to work through with your students. Then just a bit of an outline for how long this should take. It should take about 5 to 10 minutes to do that handwriting activity or the pre and post describing you exercise, or to watch a YouTube video or YouScience video. About 5 minutes for them to fill in their account bio. And then of course, 60 minutes for middle school, 75 to 90 for high school and beyond. And we ask for 20 minutes for the student results walkthrough. 20 minutes shows statistically significant improvement in social and emotional learning for students in areas like hope and intent to persist and their self-awareness. So definitely take some time to go through some of these classroom activities and lesson plans with your students and give them that 20 minutes to do that self-evaluation of their aptitudes. Last but not least, but almost to the end, I know that we've come up on just about an hour, so I want to make sure that we're respectful of your time. But we do have this implementation roadmap for a successful YouScience experience. This is not a first do this, then do this type of diagram. It's more of a do all of these things together to make sure that you have a successful start. So we have this available to you. It's just a kind of a one pager to help, I guess, fill in some gaps if you have any. And then of course, be sure to complete your ODE implementation form. If you haven't done that, you can access it in the slides. You can just click there. We do have that help center available where you can access lesson plans, tutorials, videos, trainings, all kinds of stuff is in there. And then of course we have that support team available if you have any immediate questions. And then finally, I do believe Q&A, final Q&A time. What questions are in your mind? What concerns do you have? How can we help you be successful this year?
We have one in the chat already. If you had them in classes last year, you had students in classes last year, can you make a group by graduation class and move them into those?
Yes,
and how
absolutely.
might you do that? Okay.
Great question. So within manage groups, let's say that these 9 students need to be moved over here to results hold. I can click on the group. And then if I go to my 9 in results ready, I can actually select all of these students, or I can say, you know what, these 2 or 3, they don't actually need to be moved, but the rest of them all need to be moved to results hold. I can select those boxes, choose move to another group, and choose which group I want to send them to. So it's a very quick process, but I do recommend putting them into the class of groups just so that you're not having to do this 100 times for 100 kids. So just keep that in mind, but that's it. You just click select and it moves them. So it's really simple. Does that answer your question? Got to thank you.
Yep,
Awesome.
got a head nod. Yep, awesome.
Perfect. All right, other questions?
Q&A. We're going to keep the recording going because these questions often feed a lot of good information to other folks. We do have the office hour open till 4. You are, of course, are free to move about the cabin as needed, but let's have a robust conversation. What can we do to support? I'm going to take a second as we're waiting for questions to populate. Jerica, would you mind stop share if you don't mind?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
and remind folks that this document that we have available to everybody here, this running notes, I'm going to start at the top. Your attendance is noted here. Thank you so very much. It allows us to contact you if we need to, and also to get the recording out to you. I want to point out this registration for the 2022-23 CCL office hours. What we are going to be offering from Oregon Department of Ed. If you were in YouScience last year, we held a Thursday afternoon office hour every Thursday focused on supporting YouScience users. Really developed a wonderful set of folks from across the state that led to this opportunity for everyone to have access for 2 years. The format for this coming year is going to be 4 different sessions around 4 different topics. The 4th Thursday of the month will always be focused on YouScience. So if you would jump into that document and jump onto that registration link, you can populate your calendar ahead of time. You can have access to it. You can share that with others in your building. It's just ended up being a wonderful community gathered around how to use YouScience in its best ways for our students and to get the best results out of that. So consider joining that. Our other topics will be the first Thursday of the month will be around career counseling and advising. The second Thursday around work-based learning. Very, very focused on high school opportunities, but also what might middle school students begin to experience as they begin to get ready for work-based learning in their high school adventure. And then regarding Oregon CIS, because there will be a free version coming out soon, as well as supports for those who use Oregon CIS currently, those career information systems. We at ODE look at YouScience and Oregon CIS as partners, not competitors, as an opportunity to fuse the programs together to best support students in their career awareness, exploration, and planning for preparation and training in our career connected learning domains. So it's a very fast share to say there will be a office hour every Thursday, the Thursday of every week for the coming academic year. Please jump to that document and those registration links by following that registration link there, or that bookmark there. The implementation form that Jerica has lovingly referred to several times, the deadline is in a couple days. Most of you are already into that place and space. Do not fret if you are running up some sort of like timelines and crunches with the new year starting. Just please be in touch with us and let us know. We will also be reaching out on the 26th and beyond to those who did not get step 2 in. Again, for the purposes of the grant, we need to document that there was a readiness form, an implementation form, and students in the system in order to activate the funding and get you that 2 years of funding. The YouScience toolkit that Jerica shared is here as well, lifted up for you, but it's also in your slide deck, which is found here in the nuts and bolts training. And if you follow this bookmark, it will jump you down in the document to additional resources that were populated from last year. Those are available to you, not the least of which is that YouScience knowledge base. If you and your team have time to work through that, you're going to find an extraordinary collection of resources to support you. And what we have found with our Oregon users from last year is they say, get into the knowledge base, get into that help center and look and see what's available there. You do not have to reinvent any wheels. As you do invent your own wheels though, please share them with us so that we can share them across the state. And so also in these results or in these resources, you're going to find some great videos from Southern Oregon that you can use as inspiration with your students, as communication with your families, and communication with your administrators as you're building out your systems. I'm going to pause there. Our contact information is noted with each person. Beth Molenkamp, our Career Connected Learning Coordinator, who is working with Career Connected Learning Navigators at the community colleges across the state. Beth Wiggum, our Comprehensive Counseling Coordinator and Advisor for our counselors statewide. Myself, working through CTE with Career Exploration and Guidance. And Jerica McMahan with YouScience. She is Oregon's dedicated success manager. We are her largest and almost primary focus client base. So
I love you guys.
Looking for questions. Check in the chat. The Oregon CIS free format will be open to every Oregon citizen, not just middle school and high school, but middle school, high school adults. So every Oregon citizen is going to have access to a new form of Oregon CIS to explore careers and jobs in the state. And there will be some big announcements coming out soon with regard to that. Okay, folks that are still with us, any questions? Any shares you want to share out about success or best practices? Please jump right in. Okay. I'm going to hit stop on the recording.